Login accepted.
Can Zoom hear me? Welcome everyone. It's our first workshop of the year. It's our schedule, first workshop of the year. Today we're gonna be setting everyone up with their VPN and showing you our infrastructure for our workshops and how you'll be using that later on. Next week is Intro to Linux Services. Today I'll also teach you go over the basic Linux basic commands and what you should know. Then that should help you go into next week's workshop and meeting. Become a member. Over Tuesday meeting, I went over the free tier. You're free to come to our meetings and have access to Swift Pals and the competitions and other events we have. But if you decide to pay either the yearly membership or the fall membership, you have access to our alumni mentorship program. And if you're a graduating senior, you get a stole for the end of the year when you graduate, as well as other merch. Be on the lookout for merch. There's some new stuff that we're gonna come out with. Like this many people. Five. Cert reimbursement. Still happening. Swift Pals. Nice. You want to talk about Swift Pals? I would love to talk about Swift Pals.
Hello, I am co-director of membership. The other co-director is not here right now. He went home for the weekend. But we would both love it if you guys are interested to join PALS. It's a great way to get to know other people in the club. It's directed towards new members. Really get you jump started in the club. Each week it will just have some supplementary information to have more context on each week's meetings and workshops. And yeah, I was a PAL, was it 2 years ago? I think it's great. No experience needed. Great way to make new friends and get more experience. That's about it.
Thank you, Les.
Thank you, Bill.
Alumni mentorship.
Hi guys, I'm Natalie and I'm your alumni coordinator. So the alumni mentorship is a great way to learn more about industry and how to really get started in industry. Through your alumni mentorship, you'll be paired with an alumni, and through them you can learn about networking or get any like job prep or internship help, and you might be able to get some referrals in the internship as well. Please fill out that form.
Okay, so we have our new competition called Search and Deploy, or SAN. You've done Hivestorm before, is similar to that, but the gist of it is you're given an environment, and then you'll be setting up like websites and other like computer services, but there's no one like attacking you like our other competitions are like. So it's more relaxed and more laid back and more beginner friendly. You can sign up on the QR code, signups. I think that's wrong, but that's the sign up form right there. And each team is limited to 4 competitors. If you don't have a team, feel free to chat in general, or we'll pair you up with a team. And Cyberforce tryouts. Let's.
Everybody, my name is Alex. I'm one of the co-directors of Academy, and I'm also a treasurer. So coming up pretty soon, we're going to be having Cyberforce tryouts. For those of you that don't know, Cyberforce is one of the cybersecurity competitions we recently started competing in here at Cal Poly. Basically, Cyberforce is a cybersecurity competition hosted by the Department of Energy, focused on securing critical infrastructure. We like to keep this competition open to beginners, because it's a great learning experience, and we just want more competitions open to beginners. So tryouts for this are going to be it's going to be on 9/14. That is 2 Saturdays from now, I think. So yeah, if you're interested in that, we're going to be having information on how to sign up for those tryouts, and also information on how to prepare for those tryouts pretty soon. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, if you're interested in cybersecurity competitions, I highly recommend doing this. I pretty much had no experience in cyber prior to this, and then I got started with this competition, kind of threw myself in the deep end and learned from a lot of the amazing Swift minds here. So yeah, if you're interested in that, be on the lookout for more information regarding that.
Alex. Oh my God, there's more stuff. It's like Osaka Career Night. I think that's hosted here. Yes, it is. Yeah, Osaka is a but this event is it's more like a get industry professionals in one area, and you have all these workshops like resume reviews and tips, and then interview tips and what certifications you can get. I think students get a discount. So if you're interested, you can sign up on the QR code or on the link. And there'll also be a panel discussing about cybersecurity and AI. Also get dinner. Dinner's pretty good. $20 for a buffet style dinner. Happy. Okay, before we introduce ourselves, I don't want to let the pizza to get cold. So one pizza, the whole room is gonna chill. Pizza right here. You have cheese and pepperoni. Try to limit to one slice per person. That's how we ran out on Wednesday. No. Or if we have more, we'll just like
No. This is the pizza slicing, we have to stop it. That is a huge. I didn't see.
Cut it really bad. That's not even, it's not even cut. Okay, me either. That's why she's picking me up.
I know.
Pineapples. Still nice and dry.
What if we had,
Slices are so good. Some of them are like this big. We pulled over that big.
It's kind of funny since they had like a guide.
You signed them.
Let's go along the rails.
I signed up for the social.
He was cutting out with them. You saw horses. See,
I
this is the
signed up.
size position.
I'll do one to.
Well, that's two right there.
Probably like.
Yeah.
Like I'm.
That's why
I accidentally signed up for it.
it's like, why I have to like actually. Like, yeah, I feel like that is going to be a little bit different. I'm so sorry. But it looks like the house is big. And then I don't even like. And I feel like the.
Still in the steps. Everyone did it for me, so I didn't like to do it. Right now, this much power.
Oh, Who was the last? Did you? He was wearing like. Oh, wait, I remember writing on the back. There's two. That's nice. The guy who put him was like the interview. Yeah. No, something like that.
Like a flying.
Yeah.
I can like finish five.
We're gonna start at the beginning. Yeah, begin now. Introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. Like a lot of you, I just started last year. If you talked to me around this time last year, I probably would say, I don't know what a runner is. What the heck is a Linux? So anyways, yeah, I'm Rachel. I am a fourth year. I am a transfer student as well. I am the current director of infrastructure, and I'm on the NCA team. So yeah, hi everyone.
I'm Bill. Probably see me at Club Rush, in first general meeting. But I'm a CIS major. It's my last year. I'm the Swift co-president with Sydney right here. I was on the CCDC team last year, and right now I'm currently working at the HPC as a student assistant. And now, first we're going to talk about what our infrastructure looks like and how, kind of what to know. And second part is getting you set up. That'll be more interactive, and we'll have people walking around, and I hope the people on Zoom. And then third, we'll go over some Linux basics. And then lastly, that'll be just whatever time is remaining will be for the social. So kind of what you need to bring. Maybe I should have posted this on announcements. As a reference for next workshop, you should just bring a laptop, and as long as you have internet, you should be fine. And have a great attitude. So what you need to know, our workshop is broken down into 3 components. Sorry, the pizza, exactly. You have the VPN. I'll go over what that is. And then we have Kamino and then SDC. First, I'll go over actually, no, never mind. What a virtual machine is. Does anyone have a guess? It's already on the screen. So a virtual machine is a computer environment that emulates a physical computer. What it does, it borrows or it takes some resources from your computer, like RAM, your hard drive space, or your CPU, and a software will use whatever it grabs from your hardware and allocates it to what it's called a virtual machine. And everything is isolated. It has its own OS. You can put whatever OS you want. But that's the main, like the core of what our labs are. It will involve virtual machines. And then the software that helps allocate the resources is called a hypervisor. Like I explained earlier, that's the software that takes some of the resources from your computer and allocates it to the virtual machine that you create. Keynote is usually when we refer to virtual machines, we call it like a guest machine or a guest computer. But when whoever's like your physical computer or whoever's hosting that hypervisor software, that's called the host computer. Just kind of like 2 words I could bring up. Examples of certain hypervisors, we have VirtualBox from Oracle. That's open source, I believe. Open source and free. And we also have VMware Workstation. This time it's free, actually, but you have to go through a company called Broadcom, and it's interesting. It's an interesting way to get it for free. And then guess you can't see that because it's on black and black, but it's right here, it says Proxmox. That's one of the server, or more of the hypervisors that you put on servers, and that's also what VMware ESXi's are. But the main ones you will be exposed to are VirtualBox and VMware Workstation.
So essentially a VPN, does anyone know what a VPN is here? So a VPN is essentially some sort of tool you could use in order to make your computer from anywhere, as long as you have the profile of the server, to make it appear as if it exists on that network. So for example, if, or what the example we will use is, you will download something called a VPN profile for our SDC. And that way, if you're from home or wherever you are, if you use your VPN profile, you will essentially appear as a local computer that exists here physically in the SDC, even if you're, all the way across the country.
So if you connect to our VPN, you'll have access to whatever VMs are accessible to you, and while also having access to your own network and the SDC. This is the main part about connecting to our data center here, and we'll help you set that up just in a bit. So I added a picture here. What is Kamino? Before we had this thing called Kamino, we had to use a tool where we had to manually create virtual machines for like about 30 people. I think Dylan over there knows the experience, but imagine creating, each person gets like 3 VMs, and then you have to RSVP how many, like 40 people. So if you kind of do the math, you get like 120 VMs that you have to create manually, and then you have to send out the credentials for, the VMs in the accounts. And that's kind of where Kamino came in. Kind of think of it as a virtual machine vending machine. It's, if you go on it, it's just a website that deploys VMs and our workshop resources. I gotta give credit where credit is due. It was developed by Gabriel Falk and Evan Bitters. I don't think Evan is here, but both of them were CCDC captains and created this website to help our workshops move smoothly. And then for the SDC, it's our data center somewhere around campus. It's where you have, that's the part where you mainly interact with your virtual machines and getting access to the virtual machines that you create and deploy. You'll see when we get everyone set up, you have to use the account that you create in Kamino. Plus, you have to also be on the VPN to access that. I just went over briefly everything. Now we're gonna help you guys set up the VPN, the Kamino, going on Kamino and accessing SDC. So if everyone could download a PryTunnel or OpenVPN client, just search it up on Google. I'll give you a few minutes to download that, get that ready, and then I can move on to the next part. So I'll just give you, say,
Does it matter which
3
one?
minutes.
Does it matter which one?
It does not matter.
What better?
I use PryTunnel,
It's very tunnel too.
so we'll come around and help if you have any troubles. We'll come around and help you. I'll give you like 4 minutes to do that.
Yeah, from there, there should be. The three that they had. Very sure.
Yeah, it's like mostly like the.
Around like this word, I think it was.
Wait, oh my For. Oh, wait, I gotta go see.
No, I mean, they both do the same thing.
So you'll get the. Yeah,
Always some extra stuff. Walk you through.
Whatever.
What laptop?
Or I can make it.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone have a, does anyone not have a laptop?
Oh, I don't have one.
Like, does anyone want a laptop right now, just to like? Okay, does anyone else need a laptop? Are you sure you don't want
Wow.
one? Anyone here not have a laptop? Like, yeah, I had to download the.
What you're doing though is downloading Python. So it's not. And download.
Is everyone here good? Looks good.
Yes.
Something to make some things right.
Okay, on the internet it only. Oh.
Good enough, I guess.
Dylan, here, you want the.
I'm good. You got that.
Okay.
Does anyone have any problems? Leveling.
Process too hard, bro.
We need to get the airport. I'm not allowed to talk about it.
That's really.
That's technical, but if you talk about it.
Slides. It's not here, like, it's like.
Next step is to go on. The next step is to go on the entry. On the entry, download the.
Oh. Yeah, yes. So here. Any template? Yeah. The lab there.
What's the zone we never
Right here, download the VMware profile.
I have to go in.
Still downloading because I'm on the gas.
Alright. Begin the log here. Promise, stay.
I promise I'm not.
Okay.
You never, I'm the first. Oh, these have like you want to you like. Yeah. It's like 20. I would have brought one. I'm already like. I got you. Yeah, actually, he doesn't have to add. Okay, so this is Debbie. Where was possible? Do you have any problems? Maybe it's already you know, it's
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Oh, no, I know capitals.
VMware profile. Select the VPN.
Yeah, this is just gonna be all landline.
you don't, you install like Python.
Open VPN commands, it should have.
So the way like. You have to open.
Perfect. And then the file you download, VPN profile, put that after.
No, you're good, but I just.
Yeah, and the location of that. Same directory, it should be.
Well, you should be able to get to, you should be able to like take your time and then the issue I think you'll have is if you can't. I mean, I can go ahead and add it.
The file, the VPN. Yeah, I guess.
Wait, did you
Need a bigger room.
Or Kamino guy.
I'll just send you like something like copy.
Yeah, it's fine.
VPN, and then. Password.
So after we download it.
I'm not sure what you're gonna do is you open up, so type in.
Just like.
Anyone else or?
class. Yeah, your master just not gonna like play.
So just whenever we have like, say next week's report or something, we'll tell you like. It's just funny. It's like- He's on county, he's down the-
It might be in a different, some location.
It's like He has it. No, actually. No.
Be fine, like, now. Yeah.
Yeah, CD/home. Now if you open these right you should.
Now we're gonna just.
Download that.
So.
Press tab. There's like. You have the guide. I think the guide. Reach out if you need any more.
But I just sent you the credentials, CPN. Yeah, the credit either on.
Now, right for the.
Now, as long as some people.
I should take a bit, but.
It's up and down. I know what's that. Yeah. So.
So there's no need
Yeah. There's multiple ways of usually use a tool like Kamino. Once you're familiar with Linux and command line, it's super useful to learn how to use it.
No, it's a lot.
I guess you can go back to your.
It's perfect. So you don't need to enter the URI. All you need is to watch it by browsing as you download it. I was debating getting it.
And we typically do, So ping. Then I will know what the problem is. Okay, I know the problem. So. Site like that, where it's not the DNS server good. Yeah, let's go. They have to manually add this. DNS. I don't know, I can tell you. I think I'm also on the guide. A lot of people have the same issue with
Oh, really? I don't know about that.
You're the president.
Yeah, we're still giving the big one question.
Hey,
No, for me, it was like, but.
They're essentially. Since you haven't experienced that, you haven't really done anything. For that, type nano, and then.
Before you take the back, we're gonna ask you something. Right? Thumbs up.
That's great. It's not good for that.
Brad and next. Thumbs up.
Guys, who needs help still? Does everyone have it? Everyone got it? Oh, if you need help, let someone know.
Now we're going to Kamino. Ryan, if you go on to the URL right here.
You can really put it anywhere, put it at the end.
It's a URL. And just put the button.
You just type. Oh, and and then I think that it's interesting. 128.30. If my memory is correct.
Yeah, the FCC is basically like.
I don't think.
Your password.
Number.
Special characters. Should be on the 7. So why? Characters. That's right. So it was written.
Yeah, right. That's control X.
And.
Yeah. So what you're
Doing that.
So I think, I believe that's control X. Yeah, and then press yes, so you can actually save the file. Or you can just. Why? Enter again. So that means it's a file. And now you go back to, I think, refresh. There you go. And then you can ignore the SSL error. I don't think our certificate is.
Or you want to just like make it.
Yeah, now you have to be. God, if that. Yeah, I think
Come back and having a bubble. Ryan will help you.
To be honest, Marshall, I expect like 5.
Natively is crazy.
Right now, we're not trying to. Oh, yeah, I just did this guy.
Under the. I don't know.
I had that game.
First thing, like 3 or 4 hours to try to get those final steps. Way different. Like some of it's how they're doing you. Like, you know, yeah, like, let me just dance. So, yeah. Like, it's not loaded, okay. Dragon. And anything else like. After a while.
Right, we're gonna be moving on. Best out. Finally, if you need help, raise your hand. Moving on. Right. I'm gonna deploy any pods because it might strain. Yeah, rooms full up, so we have like 100 people. That might strain. Easy. Then. So if you're connected to VPN, be able to access this URL right here. So go to also SDK, TPP. Perfect. So if you get this error right here, you should click on advanced and then other browsers are not the same.
Yeah.
So you can click on the link right here Motion to the login.
Use your
Yeah, so just watch. So yeah, that's pretty. I know that you're.
Let's go on to FTP website. Something like launch vSphere client. Saying. Your view shouldn't, it was almost like this. On the left side, you should have this view right here.
What's the Kamino?
I think it's max. Mac users are having the issue where like when they try to visit it, it doesn't. You have the public IP access. 310.
If you're already on Kamino, do not deploy anything. We deploy on.
It's called like the enhancement section.
What? Oh wait, Alex, there's instructions on. So like
sign in with the Kamino. So if any of you guys are on Mac having issues, then there's a few extra steps that you'll need to take for setting up Kamino and accessing also. So the way you're gonna do this is that you're gonna open the terminal of your Mac. And then once you open terminal, you're gonna type in the command sudo nano /etc /host. It's gonna prompt you for a password and type in your password. It'll prompt you with this like interface. For most of you guys, you won't have anything in the middle. It'll just be the 127 and this 255 will be here. You're gonna have to add everything in the middle here. I will put this copy paste into, we're gonna update the document with the correct information to copy paste in. However, right now, you kind of have to type it in. Sorry for that. And this should allow you to basically reach Kamino, reach Elsa. For some reason, Mac has issues with that when Windows doesn't. But yeah. And then afterwards, you're gonna to exit and save, you'd press I didn't actually make any edits, so but to exit and save, you press Command or Control X, and then it'll prompt you for like yes or no to save your changes. You can just type in Y, and then it'll ask you file name to write to. Just you don't have to put in input anything. Just press enter, and it'll save it. And from there, you should be able to access everything. Cool. Okay, I'll put this in announcements on the Discord for now, so if any of you guys are having issues, I just copy and paste it. I'll just put my okay, it'll be in the workshop channel.
Traffic today. Oh, no, wait. Trying
So if it's like
No, I
it's feel like oh, should I be like
think goes in. Like it's always.
oh so
Yeah.
I like from the link traffic.
Everyone has access to the SSD.
I just
Kind of going over the Kamino interface.
There's so much.
it's just more
Everyone, let's stop. We're on the next step.
Let's go over some stuff. So on the right here, you have template or deploy pods and template. That's where you'll mostly be going to. You attend our workshops. There will be a drop down, and then we'll tell you which one to deploy. You can also create your own pods, explore on your own. Won't go too much into that. Leave that to you to play around with. Okay, It's kind of another like half an hour to go through that. If you're still hungry, there's still pizza. But yeah, we're gonna be going into the basics of Linux. I've seen some Linux users here already. Pretty cool, actually. But yeah. I'll try not to spend too much time. But if you have any questions, reach out to me.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's.
If these slides look familiar, you might notice a few similarities from the summer boot camps. But first of all, let's go over what is Linux. When we refer to Linux, or when most people refer to Linux, they kind of say like it's an OS, or they refer it as the OS. But really, it's more about the kernel. The kernel is the program, or not program, but it's a part where this is kind of like a program, but it interacts with the hardware of your computer, like your RAM, your CPU, and then so it connects your hardware to the actual piece or your, I guess in this case, Linux. So connect your hardware to the files and whatever is on your desktop. And it's the foundational part of what makes an OS and what makes an OS communicate with your hardware. When we mention like different Linux OS, we mostly refer to it as distributions or flavors of Linux. We have Ubuntu, Debian, Kali Linux, and Red Hat. You'll be exploring those different kinds of distributions as we go further into the semester, but a brief explanation. The file system. I'm not gonna go over all of it because we might be short on time for the social, but the main ones that you should know for next week's workshop are the etc file or folder or directory. That directory is responsible for different configurations that you'll be playing around with and extra files that will be used for the programs you have installed. And then you have the home directory, which I should have went over this. But each kind of think of these are kind of think of directories as folders if you're using Windows. Most files are separated into each of these directories, system files and your own files. The top part, or the top part of the directory or the system file system is the root or slash right here, and then it just branches out to different directories. But going back to home, that's where your main user directory is. That's where you mostly land on. Then there's other directories I won't go into for the sake of being brief and basic. But if you're interested, you could search them up and basically Google it. So with most Linux systems, you're going to be, or when you use Linux, we heavily emphasize on using the terminal. Terminal gives you you can use different commands and have access to your file systems and basically move around the OS and yeah. So you have different versions. You have the desktop version where you have a graphical interface. You can access Firefox, And if you type terminal, you get a terminal like that on the left. But there's also a server version where you don't have a graphical interface. All you have is just terminal. So that's why we emphasize on knowing how to use CLI or the command line interface and being familiar with the commands that we'll teach you later on a bit. This picture is new to me, but using the commands in Linux, there's different options and ways you can use it. So the basic syntax, or basic syntax is it starts with a command. So like ls, you'll learn more about these commands later. We have ls, that's your command, and then options, which is usually, it follows with a tag or a dash. Like right here, you can have a tag L and A that has like different features of the command and different ways to use it. And you have arguments. Usually sometimes these arguments are required, sometimes they're not, but it really depends on how you use it and what they ask for.
So I think the best way to visualize this for you guys is if you imagine when you guys use File Explorer on Windows, everything is just graphical, and essentially using it in the command line interface in terminals instead is just a more direct way of doing it. So you have the absolute path, which is the slash as seen in that other photo. And that's essentially when you're specifying something, if you're not currently in that specific folder, you have to type in the entire path so that your computer knows what exactly you're referencing. Alternatively, you can use something called current directory, which is denoted by a dot. So for example, if you're currently somewhere and you want to specify that you are talking about right here, you would use the period and then whatever the file path you want to direct it to is. And you have the relative path, and then if you wanted to go back, for example, you could use previous directory, which is dot dot. And that would be, say, for example, if you want to go back to what's called a parent directory, which is previous directory, you would use dot dot slash. So here are some examples. So the tilde, as seen in the bottom left, that is a shorthand for home. So that would be in your home documents folder. You have the absolute file path would be the top left, for example. So home user photos would be your entire path. You have your current present directory, such as what we talked about with the period, which would be period / script.sh. And then you can also use cd, for example, with any combination of these, or any command in combination.
I'll just briefly go over the basic commands that you probably need to know. You should know actually. But first one is viewing files. You have ls, or stands for short for list. So you have the command here, and then different flags or options. So you have tag L, and then tag A, which shows, or tag L shows all the, or detailed view of each file and directory. So right here is your permissions, and then user groups and file size and date and time. And then for creating files, you have the touch command. I don't know why it's called touch, but that's how you create files. There's different flags for it too, but I'm not gonna go over that. Then you also specify, or to create a file, you also need to specify, a name for a file, or else it doesn't exist. So you just put a file name. If you put a file name, it'll put it in the current directory you're in. But if you put the full path, it'll create the file on that path. And then there's also other ways to create files, and I'll go over that later. And then more basic commands. You have copy or CP. Pretty straightforward. You specify which file you want to copy, and then tell it where to go. And then you also have move, which specify the file, and then tell where it should go. Pretty straightforward. Then you have cat or concatenate. That just like it lists or it displays the contents of a file. So you just put cat and then the file name or the file path. Then you have remove. There's different flags you might see when different flags you might use when you remove a file. Common one that I promise will delete anything is a tag R and then tag F. Just use it in your own discretion. But then of course you specify a file path and file name. I think you kind of get a pattern here of how to use these commands, and then you have directory, same thing, has different flags, and then directory name. So now we go into like, what if you want to learn more about the command and have a nice read? You have the man command or the manual, short for manual. And all you have to do is just type man and then the command you want to look at. And it'll show you all the different flags, how to use the command, different examples. And if you want to learn more about command, it's a nice read. But if you want something short and simple, usually commands have a tac help or a tac H flag you can use. So if you just put like, let's say ls and then tac help, it'll give you different flags you can give it, and then it's just like a TLDR of what manual is. And then go on. Got a picture here, yeah. So that's how the command page looks like. It's also available online if you don't feel like typing into the command line. And then there's also this command find. You give it like a name and then like where to look for. And then you'll find the name, you'll find the file that's wherever path you specify. So if I put find, then that's like the whole directory or the whole file system, and then you put tag name, smile.png. It will look for the files. It will look through the entire file system and look for the smile.png file. Then I was talking about the text editors earlier. You have Vim and Nano. Vim might be a bit tricky if you decide to use it. If you have a terminal or Linux system, or if you have anything, if you're running on Linux right now, you could try to use Vim and maybe try to get up. But there's two main modes that you'll be mostly using. Is the default mode, which has different keyboard shortcuts to delete, move around. But you also have the insert mode, where if you press I, you can type, do whatever you need to do. But every time you want to switch between modes, you have to, what I like to do is spam the escape key. Just making sure that you should always go back to the default mode. And as long as you're in the default mode, you can save and exit just by typing. What's it called? Just type colon and then WQ and you should be able to save and exit. As for Nano, it's more straightforward. Some people probably prefer it more than Vim. But all you have to do, it works really similarly to Notepad. Once you're in, you just start typing away. And then once you're done, like Ryan just showed, you just press Control X and then press Y to save and exit.
So just like in, say, Windows, for example, every file has permissions and ownership because you don't want, the hens running loose. You want to be able to trust that this file that's meant for this person can only be touched by that person, not everyone on the file system, for example. So as explained earlier, with the list command, we can use that list command to show everything. And with the L option, it'll show our permissions. So I've kind of color coded everything to make it a little bit more legible, but essentially it follows a format of directory followed by each permission per group. So first we have, for example, with the first three, there's the owner, and then there's the group, and then there's everyone, followed by who owns the file. And essentially, this is just a very squeezed in version of reading it. So we can modify these permissions, and maybe this might be a little bit outside of the scope of today, given that this is intro, but essentially, we can use certain commands, say, for example, if you want to change who owns it, or you want to change the permissions of it. And so similarly to the syntax of all the other commands that we talked about before, it would just follow the format of command, option, and then file. So there's also something called the UID and the GID. And in most basic terms, those are for the user identifier and for the group identifier. And just as Bill talked about earlier with how things are stored in certain configuration files, the information for these is stored in etc files and their own separate files as well. So the most important user you will see on the file system is, if you guys have ever heard of something called the administrator, which I'm sure a lot of you have, the most similar thing to an administrator on the Linux file system is called root. And it's pretty much the system administrator with the maximum permissions possible. And it's a very sensitive role to have because it can do a lot of things. Whereas, for example, administrator in Windows is kind of built to make sure you don't accidentally break the system. Linux gives you a lot more permission to accidentally break the system. So you have two main commands for that. Sudo, which stands for super user do. So essentially, you're temporarily standing in as the administrator to do whatever command that follows that. Or you can do su to switch the user. So without an input for su, so just as any other command, su can be followed by the name of a user for whoever you want to switch it to. But if you wanted to switch it to root, you would just do su, or you could do su root as well. And so the super user is essentially an elevated user with special permissions. And so for managing the users, there's two main ways to add a user. Personally, I like one better than the other. I kind of forget that the other one exists. Makes my life easier. So you have add user and user add. And essentially, the biggest difference between these two is one creates all of the files for that user alongside them, whereas the other one doesn't. And then there's also the passwd, which is short for password command. And that essentially allows you to change the password of a certain user.
So we can kind of info dumping within like 30 minutes. But I promise if you review the slides, it'll help for next week. But going away from users and groups and all that stuff, we have processes. That it probably sounds from, or this is the most important part for next week, is understanding like what processes are and how to view them. So a process or processes are programs that are currently running on your computer. This could be anything that you open up, like Firefox or your terminal. Well, it also involves background processes that run in the background where you can't see. All these processes do is help your Linux system run the way it is and allocating RAM and all that stuff. Then to view the processes that are running, the command I like to use is ps-aux. It lists all of the processes from root, system accounts, all that stuff, and you get a nice view of what's running and maybe catch a few bad processes that might run in the background. And then to kill or to terminate a process, you have the kill command. To kill a process, you have to specify a special flag, which is tag9, which indicates to the process that you must be die. You must be terminated. Yeah, after that, you put in the process ID and somehow it will be gone. Then next week, we'll go into more like service-based stuff and going on how to like turn on services and stuff. But you might interest you in how you install packages. Different distributions have different ways, different commands to use to install packages. So in Debian base, like Kali Linux, Ubuntu, Debian, there's another one. Use the apt or apt command. Then to install, you just specify what packages you want. Then for RHEL or Red Hat, it's like CentOS, Red Hat, Rocky. Use Yum. I'm not sure why it's called Yum, but same syntax as Debian, and then there's other distributions. You don't have to, only have to worry about them because we don't use them here, but maybe in the future you might. Also, Suffering is not a distribution. I think I got a question from summer boot camps that it's not a distribution. We just put it there because sometimes it's difficult to find what command to use. That's how I felt when so that's kind of the end. Sorry if it was a drag and kind of like full information dump, but if you have any questions, also have a few resources you can use. The one that we like to use a lot. This one's more interactive. It's Over the Wire, Bandit. Click on Bandit, sorry. Yeah, there's like different levels you can go through. Goes all the way to like level 34. I would say a good range would be like up to level 10. But there's that, and then there's different websites you can learn more. But if you have any questions, just reach out to me or anyone on Discord. I'm happy to help.
All right, guys. If you would like